Zeynab.
Oh, that's perfect timing, that was. Thank you so much, Doug. I'm so excited about today. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Global Chamber London session, but a global nevertheless, on cultural sales and confidence across regions. I'm Zeynab Al-Khero, Executive Director of Global Chamber London and founder of Zolk Consulting, where I work on strategic business development and international expansion, particularly between the UK and the GCC. Today's workshop is designed to explore how sales and the confidence behind it look and feel different depending on where in the world you're doing business. I'm joined by two exceptional women who bring global experience and expertise and deep insight into the art of psychology of sales. I'm going to be making some introductions now, and then I'll hand over to our ladies. First, we have Carla Watt, founder of What Next Consulting. Hello, Carla.
Hello.
She's a sales expert who helps business improve performance, communication, and cultural awareness in global markets. Carla has decades of experience working with international teams, building sales and confidence, and creating authentic engagement across borders. And joining us as well, we have Corina Goetz, founder of Star Cats. Hello, Corina.
Hi.
And a recognized authority on Middle Eastern business culture. Karina's expertise lies in helping Western businesses successfully build relationships, trust across the GCC region, and something she's been doing for over 20 years. And together, we'll uncover how culture, confidence, and authenticity shape sales strategies worldwide. Before I hand over to continue the introductions and get into our workshop, I want to highlight that sales isn't just about a product, it's about people, it's about trust and connection. What we're going to explore today is how culture defines the way we sell, the way we build confidence, and the way we maintain relationships. We'll focus on three key regions today: the UK, the USA, and the GCC, each with its own rhythm, pace, and expectation. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Carla first. Carla, would you please introduce yourself and your business, and we'll go straight into the questions after that.
Absolutely. So I'm Carla Watt, founder of What Next Consultancy. As Zeynab has said, I've been doing sales for a long time now. So I have been that original sales girl that probably annoyed everybody by picking up the phone and being the original telemarketer. So I've lived and breathed this entire experience from starting at the bottom, so as like they say, sales floor to leadership, and moved up through the ranks of being able to do what I can do today. So probably the biggest reasons I can do what I do is because I have that experience of being able to feel the pain, feel the hardships. So then I kind of moved into placing sales teams within companies and guiding companies on how that they should be treating the people within their teams to be able to sell and to really get the benefit out of them, because it is a big cost putting sales on. And even if you're an individual and you start a sales process, there is a cost to this. There's a cost to it in time, there's a cost to it in money, and there's a cost to it in energy, and it can wipe the floor with you sometimes. So being able to just have basic understanding of sales will make a massive difference to your business. So predominantly that is what I look to do. And I do want to look at doing changes within the market, whether it's just in the UK or across the board, of individuals becoming more aware, because companies do take time to really think whether they want to invest in sales teams or actually try and upskill them. Where I think now we're also looking at a bit of a change in, and I've seen this across borders, of individuals now wanting to be better. So whether the companies are not investing in themselves, there's certainly people now investing in themselves, and it seems to be a changing market that way.
Oh, absolutely, Carla. And actually, that brings me nicely into the question I have. How would you describe the main differences in sales communication and confidence between, say, the UK and the US markets?
Okay, so we're I mean we speak the same language as we all know, but then we don't speak the language as we all know as well. We have similar words, but they do have different meanings. But it's not just the meaning behind the words, it's the delivery of them as well. And I would say there's pros and cons on both sides, hence why probably selling into the UK market can be quite difficult for American companies. There's because I think culturally you're far more confident. You've got the confidence and the ability to actually put yourselves forward, whereas the Brits, the majority anyway, are a bit more reserved and it takes us a bit longer to make a decision. Where I think across the pond, you're far better at making decisions. We're still on the back foot of probably being able to make decisions here. But I think if you're trying to sell from the US into the UK, you probably will hit walls as well because it's very much the confidence that you have. And if you're hitting somebody here that has not got that confidence, the difference is too much. So sometimes it's not just about culture, it's also about the where somebody is in their sales process and who you're selling to and the journey that they're on. And I've always said to people across the borders, get to know the person and actually listen. Listening to somebody will get you further than actually trying to pitch and say how great your product is, because at the end of the day, we're all human and you have no idea what's going on in somebody's lives and where they are, to get to know them. And the best way to do that is have the confidence in yourself to be able to listen to somebody and not just go, and then carry on with what you're trying to say. You're too busy thinking about what you're trying to say. Those are the biggest blocks I'm seeing at the moment. And those are the barriers that I try and break down to say, let's have a listen. You can listen for a sale.
It's very interesting that you say that because sometimes, many of the times when I've been approached, I always felt like someone is just talking at me because that's what they
Mm-hmm.
want to sell and that's what they want to pitch. And they haven't actually asked what it is that I'm looking for. So, yes, absolutely. Get to know, listen, less is more. Thank you, Carla. Corina, hello. Would you please introduce yourself and about what you do in your business, and then we'll roll on to the question.
Of course. So I'm Corina Goetz. My company is called StarCat, and basically the title was born out of I worked extensively in five-star hospitality. So the star stands for five-star, and the cat is consulting and training. And what I do is I help companies in the West understand Middle Eastern culture, what kind of strategy you need to use, how Saudi is different from the UAE, how it's different from Qatar, how you can effectively market to these clients, how you can build relationship and trust, which sometimes feels very, very overwhelming when you first start out in this market. And I also work with a lot of women, specifically when they go to places like Saudi for the first time, when they have a lot of ideas of what it's like versus what it's actually really like. So how you should dress, if men are going to talk to you, if they do business with you. So I can give you all of that reassurance and everything you need to know to kind of get started.
Oh, thank you so much, Karina. And there's so much to say about that, and which leads me to my question. In the GCC, relationships are often before transactions. What are the biggest cultural nuances businesses need to understand to sell successfully in the Middle East?
I think there's so many things. I think I could be here talking for days about this, but I think one of the most important things is in the GCC is to understand what the countries want to achieve, because very different from the West, like the UK and the US. They actually have really long-term plans. So a lot of people might have heard like Saudi has a vision 2030. A lot of the other countries have visions 2030 or 35. But the UAE, for example, they have gone one step further. They have a centennial vision. So their vision is until 2071. This is how far ahead they're thinking. And if you go in there as a company and you don't know what that means, then it's going to be really difficult to do business, because these kind of visions are not just sort of government plans. Like, they trickle down to the individual companies, to the entrepreneurs, because everybody buys into this. And that's fundamentally a really big difference to the West, because we don't really have this here. We have a government that's in place for 1 or 2 years, and then the next one comes in and they have their own agenda. And out there, it's very different. They take a much longer approach. And that's, I think, what companies have to know. And then I think the other thing is, and that ties very nicely into what Carla said, it's all about building relationships, because relationships will get you so much further. And contrary, I mean, I am German, so again, it goes very much against everything. The Germans, like, they're very strict, they want to get everything done. And in the Middle East, it's like they want to get to know you. They want to know who you are, what you are about. So they can then make an informed decision of whether they want to do business with you, whether your values align with them. And that relationship part, or that relationship building part, it sometimes takes time, and people feel like, oh, I haven't got this time, I need to close the deal. But you need to take time, because this is the only way you kind of will get ahead. So again, there's so many layers there. But I think once you uncover them, almost a bit like an onion, it's great, and it works so much longer than just a one-off relationship.
Absolutely, well said. Again, the theme here is building relationships throughout and across regions. It does take time, it does take effort, it does take a few coffees, a few lunches. And actually, sometimes you find that you would go to these coffees and lunches without addressing business itself. So I completely second that. In fact, for both of you, how does authenticity and trust play into sales success, especially across different regions and personality styles? Carla, would you like to start?
Yes, good question. I think it's key. It's really, really key. I think you have to look at it two ways. So certainly from a company's perspective, and you're bringing on a team that's obviously representing you, you really should have your culture and your ethics and everything all in place. It's not just about the product. You have to let them know that you're selling, that this person is representing you. So you have to really make sure that you have given them the culture and what you stand for and where it all came from. There's always a story to tell. How the company started, why it's where it is now, and give them all the tools that they need to be authentic about what they are selling into and what somebody could potentially be buying into. People prefer honesty, because you can make mistakes, and if you're an honest person, you truly want to sort that out, you can rectify that. Now, if you've already lost the trust, that's going to be a harder sell completely. But the second part of that would be for the individuals that are actually out there trying to sell your products, or if you're a business owner trying to sell yourself, be honest. If you can't commit to something, be honest about it, because there's no point over committing to something and underperforming. To recover from that is going to be detrimental, and it's not going to help you anyway. And certainly as an individual selling from a company's perspective, also have integrity in yourself. So believe in the product, believe in the company that you're with, but also believe in yourself, because the person is actually going to be buying from you. So if you are honest about what you're selling, if you're honest and you can get behind it and you come across as a credible person, that's half the battle as well, because you are being truthful and honest. And that's what most people want. Most people do not want to go away and have the thought of, did I understand that right? And have to think about it. They just want clarity.
It's so spot on. I mean, you can really feel authenticity, can't you? You can feel it.
You
Also
can.
feel it when it's not there. Yes, absolutely. And Corina, what do you think?
I mean, I think, again, with the authenticity, it's one very big part, I think, in the GCC is that they want to feel that you take an interest beyond the business. And that sometimes can mean small things. It can mean something that you bond over something small that even happened, for example, at the airport. So I remember I was in Dubai at the airport, at the Pret-a-Manger, which is, you know, like a chain that you have everywhere these days, they actually had like a rose cappuccino. And I was like, how amazing is this? Because I never had this in London. And this was so nice. And that gave me something to talk about. And then, of course, like for me, when I go to Saudi, I also, and I appreciate not everybody can do this, that you always have time to look at different things. But sometimes it's as small as I had a client and he said, what do you actually want to do? And I said, actually, I would love to go on the metro, even just for one stop for a ride, just to see what it's like. And then I had something else to talk with somebody else. And they were like, yeah, this is amazing. I haven't even been on there. But this kind of connection means more than you just walk in there with a sales pitch, because they think, oh my God, they actually have taken some time to do something that is in my country or that is different to theirs. And they appreciate that. And I think that comes across because you can't fake this. And authenticity, I think, is such a big deal. And in the Middle East, they will see through it so quickly if you just give them the talk. And they, I think, more so than anybody else, they really want to feel that you have an interest in them and it's not just business. I think that to me is the biggest takeaway for the GCC.
Absolutely well said. I mean, honesty is best policy. And there is also the question of ethics, how to do business ethically. And I know that particularly in the GCC, you meet a lot of companies and businesses who may well know what they're talking about, but actually, it's so pivotal to understand whether their ethics are on the upper scale or on the lower scale. So ethics is very, very, very important. Um, and that rose cappuccino, did it actually taste like rose water?
It was really nice, you know, and it was really funny because a lot of the Western people then said to me, we didn't even know there was such thing as like rose stuff in the GCC. And it was so funny because I had been to a place called Taif and they have rose season and it's phenomenal. And people just didn't know. I mean, my own dad was like, what do you mean? I thought you're going to the desert. I was like, no. So
Taif is absolutely beautiful. Taif is an area in Saudi Arabia that's about 2,500 meters above land, and it's where rose water and rose fields are from. Indeed, yes, it's beautiful. Um, Carla, cold sales versus warm sales. How can professionals build confidence when reaching out to prospects they've never met before?
It's always going to be a hard ask because it's just everybody's block, everybody's fears. You can sit in a training program for as long as you like of somebody giving you the correct way to answer, the correct things to say, you've got your pitch perfect, you've got great confidence. You can go through all that, and I've seen it, and then you actually get to the point of picking up the phone. And so many people will just leave because they can't do it. And it's very difficult. It is very difficult because face to face to phone, very different room to be in. But certainly I would always, when I've ever trained sales teams and I know that it is more of a confidence thing, I would obviously put in role play beforehand just to give them that kind of confidence. I would then just leave them on the phone for a day and just say, just go try it, you know. But I'd make sure that they would have a list of things that they could probably try, something that's not going to be too difficult. Because I think most people, when they either take somebody on to sell something for them, sometimes it can be too high. The price can be too high. If that person hasn't got the confidence to pick up that, or they can't relate to that kind of money that you're asking for, there's certain aspects like that they will just be scared of. So set somebody up to not to fail. So give them, you know, something easy to go for straight away. Lift that phone up and it's practice. It's like riding a bike. You're going to fall over until you've got it down. And anybody that's been doing cold calling probably for the last 20 years will still tell you it's still very hard. It's still very good. But the buzz, when you get into the flow of it and you don't let the rejection and things hit you hard, well, it is a buzz, because that's why people stay in it, because they see the hard side, but they don't see the rewards because they give up too soon. And it's like anything else, the rewards do come in.
And does What Next provide training for sales? So you said that you would sort of leave them on the phone for a day. Is there an actual structure to this? Is there a way of doing it?
So normally when I am approached by companies, I would say I'd have to do a sales audit first for you. So I would have a look, because sometimes you may only have one or two things that may not just be working, things that are. So I would look at the companies, do a complete sales audit, and that will be through your tech, that will be through your positioning, that will be through your training, because certainly lots of companies don't train. They think a 20-minute presentation of their product is enough, and it's not even close to being enough. And then you wonder why your sales aren't coming in, the targets are too high. So yes, I would go in and look at what they've received and then say, this is the plan. Absolutely. We'll sit them down, train them. It's like hand holding. These are for the bigger companies I'll do this for. It is like hand holding. Or if I'm, individuals that are just starting out themselves and they've found themselves setting up their own businesses, and I will coach them on that, and I'll set them the targets for them. So I'm a bit more of like accountability in that way, but I can do one-to-one and a bit of role play and say, like, go and do this and come back and we'll have a conversation then. So things like that can be done, yes.
It is a tough one though, isn't it? It's a tough game to be in. I mean, doing those calls, those sales calls, that you would get a lot of rejections. I mean, I've been one of those people who just said, not today, sorry, and I had to hang up. So there needs to be that sort of resilience as part of that training. Would you say that's the case?
Totally the case. And you reframe. So a lot of people talk about reframing things. Reframe this cold calling. So when people say I've had 100 rejections or I've had 50 rejections, if I was just, so I'll say to a team, okay, so your goal, if I told you from the data that I had in front of me that you were going to hit a target by the time you've got to 100, so you knew you had to make 100 calls and you're going to get to that target. 99 doesn't seem so hard, does it? Because you're getting closer. I'll have another no. I'll have another no, another no. I'm getting closer to my yes. Okay. Because that's pretty much what it is. You just reframe it. So get to your yes. Right now, I've had 50 no's. That means I'm closer to that yes. And if you are then probably 500 no's down the line and you're thinking, I've still not got to a yes, this isn't working, you should be hitting your 100 and thinking, right, what is not working? What do I need to try now? Reframe that. Okay. And then it's like a beta test. Everybody in sales will beta test. It will be a case of, right, I'll do 50 calls like this, and I'll do 50 calls like this, and I'll take the results. Biggest advice ever in setting yourself up this way is hold the data. So when you make a start, hold your data, read your data. That didn't work. Why didn't that work? And go through it like a process like that. Remove, add in. Don't have to change the whole thing. You may just need to tweak.
I love that, Carla. Positive thinking, shifting your mindset. And it's absolutely true. It's 50 calls into your yes. That's a really nice mindset to look at it. Corina, how do cultural etiquette, timing and patience, lots of patience in the Middle East especially, influence the sales cycle in that region, in the GCC?
I mean, a lot. And it's really interesting because obviously Carla was talking about phone calls. And in the Middle East, it's so interesting. People just don't call, really. They all on WhatsApp. And one of the other mediums that is so strong also for the GCC, and people probably wouldn't believe it, is LinkedIn. I mean, I can tell you there's royals on LinkedIn, there is assistants on LinkedIn, and a lot of the people that I know, for example, in Saudi, they tell me, well, before we start working with somebody, we always check them out on LinkedIn. So it definitely pays to build your brand, build your story, because you don't know who's going to see it. So again, I think, we're quite lucky because we have all these extra tools now that we never had before. And one of the other things is, and again, it feels often very personal because to us, I think a lot of people think, oh, I don't want to have all these people on my WhatsApp, it's like private. But for the Middle East, it's actually really key because that's the way they like to communicate. So you also have to look at the channels you are working for your sales, where you outreach. So if, for example, you have met somebody on LinkedIn and they want to hop over to WhatsApp, it's actually not a bad thing. And then one of the other things, and this is a really hot tip for everybody, because people don't believe that, and I know we find it so hard with social media, is on WhatsApp, you actually have WhatsApp stories. I don't know, anybody seen them? The
Yeah.
WhatsApp stories, they're very similar to Instagram stories. They stay for 24 hours. But I can tell you that the Middle East looks at these stories like no other person. So if you have your products, this is a subtle way of selling, just to put in some things that you have seen that maybe your product does, maybe a testimonial, and people will see it. And again, sometimes you will not see everybody who saw these stories, because the people that have taken off, because there's a function on WhatsApp where you can I think where you don't have the blue tick, so people see that you've seen the messages. So the people that don't have the blue tick, that just have it on gray, which a lot of people do, they can still look at your stories, but you don't know that they looked at your stories. So there's a whole different world out there that you can sell to without obviously selling and bombarding them with messages. And I can definitely tell you it works, because I have a lot of people from the GCC that always tell me about something that has been in my stories. And I'm like, where have you been? I never saw that you saw this. So this is a really good tip. And yeah, and I think, yes, patience, and then also thinking about, what matters to them. So, for example, when all of this happened in Qatar a couple of weeks ago, and they obviously had that bomb that went down, I have a list of all my Qatari clients. So the minute this happened, I reached out to them, nothing to do with business, but to show that I cared. And that went so much further than any business I could have ever given them or helped them with or whatever, because they felt that I actually took an interest. And that goes back to relationship building. This is how you build trust. And this is, yes, it's not your average sales tool, but that's how you do it with the GCC. And that goes a long way. And people will remember this for a long time.
Yes, that's right. It's that connection that you're building with your colleagues, potential clients, partners. And actually, Corina, you mentioned a lot of the WhatsApp, the content, the LinkedIn. How important is your content? When you are talking about certain cultures, because, they are watching to see if you are able to paint that picture, the right picture. So what tools do you use to help you tell that story on LinkedIn, on social media?
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for, AI, and there's lots of different ones like ChatGPT and all of these different ones. But and again, like with tools like this, the more you feed it, the more they learn what your voice is. And I mean, as a general rule, I would say try and stay away from things like politics and whatever. But if you make it just about your company, weave the storytelling into these posts. And I appreciate, people find that really hard, because that's just another thing on the to-do list. But I can definitely tell you, if you want to look at any one of the platforms, I would say go all in on LinkedIn, because that doesn't just work for the Middle East, it also works for the US, it works for the UK. And I mean, I can tell you that I have gotten loads of great leads and podcast invites, speaking invites, all of these kind of things through LinkedIn. And it always surprises me how many people see my content. I mean, just today I met somebody in a hotel, and then I met somebody else that I hadn't seen for like years. And she said, "Oh my God, I always see you on LinkedIn." And I'm thinking, where have you been? You never liked anything, you never commented on anything. But there's a lot of people like that that's staying in the background, and they're usually the people watching, and they're going to be your best clients, because they form an opinion of what they see. And they see about you and see you being authentic and telling stories about your product or about what's going on, they will buy into this. I mean, it's like with everyone, if we see a really good advertisement, right? We're like, yeah, I might actually look at this product. It works.
It really does. And yes, you're right. There are lots of watchers out on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And, nevertheless, you are still telling your story. You are still being authentic, and they are able to take notes of that. LinkedIn is very powerful. As you say, a lot of royalties in the GCC are part of LinkedIn and are active on LinkedIn, but also lots of C-suites executives are on LinkedIn as well. And we've been asked the question of, how do you have time? But actually, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I answer my inbox on LinkedIn, and you get a lot of business out of LinkedIn. So I certainly second that, and it's a great tool. It's a great tool. Carla, on the social media aspects and on LinkedIn, how are you finding that, from a business owner's perspective, but also for your business, for sales, how have you found LinkedIn or other social media presence?
So for me personally, I think because to sell as a business owner is very different to how I train sales. It depends how so that was a whole new learning curve for me, because I thought, I know sales, I can do this. And then when I came into doing this for myself, I saw a whole different meaning to sales. And I thought, okay, I now have to approach this. And I went, and like anybody else, I'm always taking training. I'm always after training as well for myself, because that's the only way I can then deliver a great service to somebody else. I've got to stay on my game too. So for me, I was never really on social media. I really was not the kind of girl that wanted to be posting all over the place anyway. But I do post on LinkedIn, and I have more conversations on LinkedIn. So, or I'll even just through messaging, or somebody will reach out to me. Again, like you, I've just done a podcast for somebody. But I would say predominantly for me to get, when I was getting my business off the ground, I networked like mad. I was face to face because I'm more personable. And I think it really depends on your kind of business. So obviously, when I go into a company, I am working alongside people. People have to buy into me, and they have to be able to know that they can work with me, and I'm the right person for them. I'm not just going in there cracking a whip and this is what we've got to do. I make it personal. I look at this, think, right, I really want to get you from here to here, because everybody's going to be a lot happy. And if you've got a happy team, you can do that. So for me, networking, getting myself out there and shaking hands, eye to eye contact, and building those relationships, because you don't sell overnight. What you do from a sales perspective, and this is whether you're a business owner or not, whatever you do today, you may not see the fruits of anything until 6 months down the line. Sometimes it could be a year down the line, and you'll thinking, where did I meet you? When did I meet you? And they'll just seen you, they've met you, bought into you already, just did not need you right then. But then it gets to a point, I need somebody that I remember meeting, and it goes right down the chain. So I would say, don't stick to one platform. I would say go across the board. But if people don't know you, they will not know your product, and they will not be able to buy into you. So the more you put yourself out there, the better it will be for you.
Well said. And they both are as efficient, and they work very, very well. As you say, it is all part of what type of business you have and what type of sales strategy you have indeed. Thank you both. What advice, and I'm going to make this my final question before we move into the Q&As from our audience today. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or executives looking to sell their services internationally, especially when it comes to adapting their personal style? Does anyone want to go first?
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I would definitely say you have to build a brand, and you have to put yourself out there, because if you're like, let's say, an entrepreneur, nobody's going to do it for you. So I think, like now we have all these amazing tools where we have all of these social media channels, and they're so powerful, and you can use them also without advertising if you don't have a budget just yet. But I would then rather invest into trying to learn one platform really well and try and build my brand there, and then you can spread it out. And then, of course, if your business grows, you can get somebody to help you to maybe like spread it to other platforms and see how you do it. But like, let's not get on 10 different ones and not do one right. Just learn one that is, and do it really well, and then you can expand, and more people will find you, and opportunities will find you. And it's all about consistency. And sometimes, even I think for people like us, we're like, oh my God, this post did nothing or nobody did anything. But sometimes it's the posts that have the lowest engagement that will give you the best clients. It's not all about, oh, I have to go viral, I have to have this amount of followers. The followers don't necessarily mean you're going to get good business. You need to reach the right people. And that's why somebody with 500 followers can make way more money with than somebody with like 10,000 followers.
Thank you, Corina and Carla.
So from my perspective, I would say if you really are looking to go international, wherever you're going, learn the culture. Definitely learn the culture. And I mean, I do work a lot in the States now, but it's taken me 2 years to learn. I just jumped onto a networking event 2 years ago, came up with, would you like to join this networking event? I did, jumped on. 2 guys reached out to me. I've been talking to them for the last 2 years. They have connected me with so many people. But it's been great because America is so large, so different states, different people, different styles, different everything. That it's a big place to really get your head around. So I speak to people in California, to New York, to everywhere. And I had to learn. So I didn't really start approaching, really looking into coming into the States just yet until I learned how everything was operated, how, because people have different views and you have to get a few of those. So if you are looking for another, certainly coming into the UK, you will find we're quite a reserved bunch. It's a case of knock on that door a bit more. It's not always a no until somebody really slams the door in you and says no, just keep going as well. I would say that would probably be the biggest tip I could give you.
That's great. And certainly in the UK, we like to take our time a little bit more, don't we?
We do.
Yes.
We do need to get over that a little bit as well, I think.
We do, because it's not being bombarded. That's just how business is.
Yes, it is, and it's overwhelming, and we're not used to it. But I do feel that I think we need to balance it up a bit. We really do. We really do need to say if we're going to commit to something, then definitely commit to it. But again, it's all about listening. If somebody's not listening to you, you're never going to get anywhere.
So well said. Thank you both so much. It's been pivotal to hear from you to understand how all of this works really, and there's so much to say about it. I am going to open the floor to our audience, and please feel free to unmute and drop your question. Anyone with a question?
Yes. Bueno, hello. I am Luis Villaclara from Barcelona. Thank you very much for the discussion. That has been very interesting. My question is, I have been several years with LinkedIn, but really, what would be the best step to start with something really that can be productive in order to get clients for a service company? This is my.
Can I just ask, are you on about, so you're saying that you're on LinkedIn at the moment and you're looking for other avenues or similar ways on LinkedIn?
I would like to get clients.
On LinkedIn?
Yes, so because I am the manager of a service company, of a financial services company. And which do you think would be the best move to start with?
Well, but without going too much into probably what you've already done, so usually I would like to look into what you've already done so far to see if anything's worked. So what I would say to you would be, look at what you've done so far. If it hasn't worked, okay, there's 2 ways you can adopt that. You can either change what you're doing, and it will probably be more in the outreach. Most people, when they enter into sales, think that the kind of outreach they're doing is enough. I would say 10x that. Okay, I would say 10x that, because when I'm putting sales teams in and they're banging out 80 calls a day, and there's a team of 10 sat there, that company can afford to do that, and message and everything gets out, but they probably need to do that to get the conversion rate they want. So what I would say for you, it would be more strategic. It would be a case of if you want 5 clients, set that as your goal. Okay, so if you suddenly start doing more messaging on LinkedIn, or maybe you start putting a video on LinkedIn, and say you put 5 videos on LinkedIn and you manage to get 1 client out of that, well, that to get 5 clients, how many you've got to do. to get 5 clients now because you know how many it is to get 1. Okay, so kind of use the data as you're going. Okay, and that's how I would say. But pivot. So as I've said previously before, if you've done something and it hasn't worked, it's not a case of, sometimes you can 10x that, 20x that, and it's going to work. Or sometimes it's a case of change your whole strategy or change something. But without actually knowing what you've done before, it is a case of always be strategic about it. Don't just throw it out there, and record what you're doing, because that will give you the numbers and that will give you your answers. You won't have to ask the question then.
Okay.
I think for me, I just had a quick look at your profile. I think number one, I would change your banner, because your banner only has the company on there. It doesn't really say, like, if I see this, I don't necessarily know what you do. So you have to think about, like, how would you describe what you do? Who do you do it for? And then you need a call to action on the banner, something like get in contact, like an email or a phone or whatever it may be. And then I think the other thing I would say on your profile is, I think your headline is managing partner. Again, that means nothing to me if I look for something. So, so again, I think your headline needs to say what you do. Like, is it, I don't know, you help people with what? Because that's what people see first. And then I would also say, if you can, post a bit more. Maybe even if you just do 1 post a week, that's more than 1 a month. So, you know, people will see you more. And then if you know who's your ideal client or who's your ideal company, I would then start looking, because you can search the companies and then you can see who works in those companies. And then I would start looking who from these people that work in these companies are active on LinkedIn, and do they post? And when they post, I would then start commenting on their posts. So they see you showing up and they see A, what you do once you've changed your title, and then B, they start building almost like a relationship. I know this probably sounds like a lot of work, but you probably don't need more than half an hour a day or every couple of days to do this once you get this down. And exactly what Carla said, if you have a list of your ideal clients, look them up, look the companies up, try and connect with people, and then start building these relationships. And then you will see that things will move much faster.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you so much. Any other questions here? I see a hand over here. Dr. Christina, can you?
Hello. Yes, it's lovely to see you again, Corina. This is wonderful. This information from all 3 of you. I've learned so much so far today. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and get off of the social media question. And I want to talk to you about in your actual practice when you're dealing with people in sales. I know some of the issues that ruin sales have to do with pride. So when you recognize that pride is, how do you get people to recognize that pride is leading the way, and how much vulnerability they can show while saving face and allowing their clients to save face?
Such a good question, Dr. Christina. Thank you so much. Corina? Carla?
I mean, do you have like a specific sort of example or something?
Well, I was thinking about this when both of you earlier were talking about timing. And then from the US perspective, it's like time is money. We've got to get through with this. I'm working with clients in South America right now. And no, again, as you mentioned in your examples, you need to invest in time. And when you get them out of their own cultural vision of pride, how do you do that? I guess I'm asking. So like the US people, got to get in there, let's make the deal, let's do this fast. How do you get them to step out of their comfort zone or negotiate those things?
I think Carla.
Okay, yeah, Carla, go ahead, and then I'll say something after.
I'm laughing to Jess because obviously when I've dealt with companies that have sold into the UK and I'm trying to explain to an American company that we're like, whoa, Please don't do that.
Yeah.
That's way too much. And it is. I'll tell you what it is. Again, it's not listening. It's definitely not listening. And so if they're not listening to who they're trying to sell to, they're not listening across the board because they're just so stuck in this. And yes, time is money, but that doesn't mean you have to be selling. Time, if you're thinking about time and time is money, your investment then is better off in yourself, developing yourself to be able to pitch better and to be able to have better conversations. Yes, everybody says it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game if you've got everything else right, because then your conversion is going to be a hell of a lot better. But also, if you're only playing the numbers game, that's all you're ever going to do. So you're better off saying to people, do you actually get what are your results out of that? Perhaps maybe look at maybe just trying something different, taking a breath now and again, because you must be on the verge of burnout. And I've had these conversations with companies in the USA. You are on burnout, and this is not getting anybody anywhere, and you're not actually progressing, because sometimes selling and you make the sale doesn't mean you're going to retain a customer, because they're just going to come on board. You've sold, great, and it's a churn and burn. It's a standard churn and burn, and your company is never going to actually get any bigger. So it's a good question if you're talking to clients: is your company actually growing, or are you just churning this through? Because it's less expensive to retain a customer than it is to go and get one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I mean, I think for me, I would say you have to really look at the customer, and you have to really look at the culture. And then sometimes you have to take a step back. And this is not easy. And so I'll give you an example. I mean, I am very German. I like to be on time, I like to be early. But with my Middle Eastern clients, this doesn't work. So I had a Saudi client 2 weeks ago, and he said, okay, let's meet at 2. And I knew it wasn't going to be 2, but in the end, it was 6:30. And I had to make that choice. Do I walk away from this and say, "Ugh, this is a waste of my time"? Or do I try and take some work, wait for him and see what happens? That's the approach I took, which again is very un-German. And but what then happened in the end was, when I actually met him, I met his dad, I met his uncle, because they suddenly all came to join. They suddenly all had something to say. I had a whole potential new set of clients. So sometimes you have to leave your mindset outside and say, okay, I'm just going to try a different approach. And it's not easy, because sometimes it cannot be explained. I also trained a German company, and the team there, they were like, oh my God, these Middle Eastern clients, they're so rude. We just don't understand. But all it was that they were very informal versus the Germans were very formal, and they weren't used to this. They're like, oh my God, no, this is just too uncomfortable. So sometimes it's just this disconnect where it pays to be a little bit more flexible. Certainly in the GCC, it's probably not as bad with the UK and the US, but the GCC is a whole different level of flexibility. But it pays off long term, because once you have these relationships, you get referrals left, right, and center, because people trust you and you become their go-to person, and you end up with way more clients than you anticipated. And I think that's worth it sometimes, to bend your own standards a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, because that's so well said. It's really about investing your time in those relationships. It truly is. We've got time actually for 2 more questions, I would say. Any other questions here? Is that Eddie? Can't hear you, Eddie. Still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Great presentation. I'm a sales and business development consultant here in North America, and I help a lot of companies here export out, and then a lot of countries from APEC export into North America. So everything that you're talking about is extremely relevant, and I agree with. A question I have is in regards to social media and metrics. I agree, focusing on a platform such as LinkedIn is the right idea. And I also agree from my experience that you don't always see the traction that you're getting. People do come in and just they're involved by watching and consuming, but you don't see any reaction. So in your experiences, how do you gauge success along the way? Because, you know, it can get very expensive if you're creating content, if you have somebody helping you market your content. And if it's going to take 6 months to a year to get results, which is potentially expected, how do you gauge success in those initial months to say, yeah, we're on the right track or we're not on the right track?
Excellent question, Eddie. Thank you. Corina?
I mean, I would say the secret sauce is definitely in the direct messages, you know, when people reach out to you and then say, oh, I saw this or I saw that, that really resonated, or for people in the comments. And you know, I think this is an ongoing thing for everybody because we all get this. Certainly, I get this every week where I think, oh my God, maybe this was pointless, or why, you know, nothing worked on there. And then you get 2 or 3 more leads later on down the line that make it all worthwhile. So I think this is a constant thing where you have to motivate yourself and you have to say to yourself, you know, I have to be consistent. I have to be resilient with this and just keep going. I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm also on X and my X is not moving. And I was talking to somebody, like I gain 2 followers, I lose 5. I'm like, what's even the point? You know, but I was talking to somebody the other day and he was like, no, keep going, because at some point the algorithm will pick it up. And that's what I just think. I'm just like, okay, let me just do it. Let me just keep going with it. And if you commit again with LinkedIn, it's not even that you have to post every day, but with LinkedIn, even if you commit to 2 posts a week, you know, that can make a massive difference because it will add up over time.
Thank you, Corina. Carla, do you have anything to add to what Corina
Yes, I
said?
mean, I would second what Karina's saying. It's very hard to gauge, and certainly when you're talking about the first couple of months in anything. But what I would say to myself is, doing nothing is going to produce nothing. So even though you can't see the results of it now, you are doing something. Somebody will see that. And as we've said before, you could meet somebody in a networking event and somebody could see your post. It is hard to gauge, but I think I can't remember if Google, the last postage, it's 11 points before somebody will certainly pick up on your 11 11 points of where they've seen either a post or you've commented or you've done something else or they've seen you at an event, where it takes somebody 11 times now because they're so bombarded with everybody else to actually then engage and warm up to you. So it's just, LinkedIn is 1 point. Just look at it as 1 point. You don't necessarily need to get everything from LinkedIn, but you could land your largest client and probably have posted once a week on it. You just don't know. But doing nothing will provide you with nothing.
Thank you, Carla. Eddie, thank you so much for your question. We've got time for one more question. Just going to check and see if I have any written ones here from anybody. We've got one here in the inbox. I'm going to read it out. What's your advice for professionals who aren't naturally confident sellers? I guess without sounding salesy, right? Yes. Okay, Carla?
Well, I mean, this is not a pitch, but I would say go and get advice. Even if you had 1 hour of somebody that has done this for so long can just set your mind into the right direction to go and see. Hopefully you've picked some pointers up from this. So if you've managed to gain something just from doing this session or speaking to people that have done this for a long time and you've gained knowledge in that, take it to the next level. You know, at whatever level you're at, somebody's always been mentored by somebody else. There's always levels to go with. And even if you can't afford somebody full time, 1 hour could absolutely change your life and just put you on the right and save you 6 months. You know, so even if you've got friends that have done it, reach out to them, have the conversations, just be honest about where you are and what you need.
Thank you so much, Carla. It's pivotal to invest in yourself as well. If you feel that this is an area where you are working in, that you excel at, you love it, but you know you're not very confident, invest in yourself. Get the expertise, get the right people on your side. Absolutely. Corina?
I mean, I agree with all of you, but I also heard in some of the trainings that I have done that you should reframe your mind and see sales as a service, because you're essentially providing a service, you're solving a problem that somebody else has. So they are essentially, it's not about selling that product, but that product actually solves a massive problem for somebody. So if you can reframe that in your mind, I think that might make it a lot easier.
That's well said. So again, we're talking about reframing your mind, shifting the idea. And yes, it is that you are providing a service. Absolutely. It really is. Thank you both so much. I don't think we have any more questions, and I don't think we have time for any more. Doug, is there anything you'd like to add before we close?
I have a page full of notes. This is amazing. You guys are just extraordinary, just rock stars. Thank you so much. And Zeynab, you are an amazing facilitator. Thank you so much. You're so calm and mindful and intelligent, and the way you brought us through on really such essential topics. All of these things that are related to all these things you guys talked about, and somehow you covered it in 57 minutes. So thank you so much for all of you, Corina and Carla and Zeynab. I'll turn it back to you, Zeynab, for anything else that's coming up. I know you've got some fun things coming up in London, don't you?
Oh, we have great things in London happening. In fact, this is all about local connections here, and I will definitely go into those through my LinkedIn as well. So you might see some of those, but we will absolutely be very active, especially making plans already for 2026 for the Global Chamber London. So we're very, very excited for that. And I would love to close this session today. Thank you both so much, Carla and Corina, for sharing such incredible insights. And thank you for your expertise. Thank you for making the time. It's been absolutely great having you today with me on this panel. And thank you to all of our participants for engaging with us today. At Global Chamber London, our mission is to help business think globally and act locally. And conversations like this really does help exactly achieve that. We'll share the recording and summary notes after the session. And if you'd like to collaborate, please be in touch and reach out. So thank you, everyone, once again. Thank you all so much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.